Hey guys, my name is Will, and this is Tool Head to Head, Episode 5, Cordless Circular Saw Showdown. Today, over in the orange corner, we have the Rigid Magnesium X4. And over here, we have the Harbor Freight Drill Master. Ugh. Today we're going to be putting both of these circular saws to the test to see which one is most capable of competing with a corded circular saw. So for this comparison, we're going to be doing 3 tests. The first test will involve talking about all of the individual things that make each of these circular saws good. And then the other 2 will be active tests where we will put them head to head to see which one is able to do certain tasks quicker. So we're going to start with the Rigid here. So the Rigid is mainly put apart from the Drill Master by having a lithium-ion battery. This is a 27 watt-hour lithium battery. It has a 4-bar charge meter, and it has a very, very good release system. If you look at the handle here, we have this little button here, and that turns on and off a light. Probably can't see that, but it's there. It's not very bright, but the Drill Master does not have that. The trigger is very nice. It has a very nice pull. Very good brake too, but has a very nice pull, and the locking mechanism is very easy to access. Additionally, you'll notice this. At first glance, it looks like a button, but it's not. It's actually an Allen wrench. This allows you to remove your blade. Now what you'll notice is as I turn this around, it just turns the whole blade, and that's why this button is here. If I push this button in, it locks the blade in place. So I can get it off and put a new one on if I so choose. Let's put that back in there so that I don't lose it. The front grip is very, very strong, no wobble at all. My hand fits over it very nicely. Probably good for a bigger hand, but it works for my little tiny hands as well. Adjustment here for angle of cut, and the adjustment is here for the depth of the cut. And then your meter for depth of cut is shown right here. It is a little sticky sometimes, but it works for the most part. The only additional thing to say is that the base piece here, I don't remember what this is called, but it's magnesium, unlike the other one, which is steel. It's got lots of skeleton, I guess you could call, to it. So it's probably fairly rigid, but I don't know. I think I like the steel one and the other better, but this is definitely lighter. And we have our blade cover here. Has a fairly nice, I don't know what the term for this piece is, but it's nice. It stops with a fairly satisfying thunk. Works. So now we're going to get over to the Harbor Freight, and you're going to immediately notice a couple things that are a little bit different about it. First of all, it's much, much longer. Even though the blade is actually an inch smaller. That one is a 6.5. This is only a 5.5. But it is still good enough for this test, hopefully. Now, the worst thing about this, by far, the thing I like the least is the batteries. This is a 1.3 amp hour 18-volt battery, which means that it's about 23 watt hours, so it's actually less watt hours than that. But look at the difference in the size of these 2 batteries. You can't see this, but the weight difference is also there too. The Rigid is lighter. So definitely a huge win in the Rigid for the battery. No charge meter, nothing. This takes 3 times longer to charge than that does. It's absolute junk. And you just saw how hard it was for me to get it out of the slot because the release system is horrible. Now, this does not have a light, so it does not have that first trigger, but it does have a normal trigger. The release, the lock system, not as good as the one on the Rigid, but it is functional. Much, much louder than the rigid, I will also note. This does not have a tool to remove the blade, but it does have a lock that allows you to remove it more easily, which I will admit is a little bit easier to use than the one on the rigid. The front grip is probably better for a bigger hand than it is for a smaller hand. It's not like the rigid where it works with both hand sizes. This is a little uncomfortable, and I'll give it the same thing for this hand grip for your main hand. It does not fit quite as well, but it, you know, it's got some hold to it. We've got a knob that allows you to release, and then you can adjust your tilt. And then back here, let's see, where is it? Oh, here it is. You turn this, and that allows you to change your depth, which is measured somewhere. Oh, it's measured like right there. It is very hard to see. So definitely my one thing that I really like about this is the foot. Yeah, that's what it's called. The foot feels really solid. It feels a lot more solid than the one on the rigid does. I really like this. In my last video, you would find that I really, really hate dust, and this is genius. Just a little dust chute that you can stick your vacuum onto, and that'll suck away all the dust. We're not going to be doing that in the test today for fear of it affecting the performance, but that is a fantastic feature. Every circular saw should have that. So, other than that, I can't really think of anything that separates these two. So, we are going to put them head-to-head in the first test. So I have my hearing protection on, so excuse me if I sound a little odd, maybe even a little too loud, but I have the rigid here, and I'm going to start by cutting off a piece of this plywood. I do not know how thick this plywood is. I do not know how long this plywood is. All I know is that when I do a couple cuts with each one, each test will be the same, and we're going for speed here. Oh, alright, see. Well, it definitely did stall by the end, so that isn't good. I don't like the fact that that stalled by the end. But, you know, I was pushing it pretty hard, so let's give it another try. Let's give it another shot. Alright, definitely not anywhere near the kind of power you are getting with a corded circular saw. Now let's try the Harbor Freight. Now, with the rigid being as not really good as I was hoping it would be, I do not expect this to do good at all. It has a smaller blade, a smaller motor, junk battery. This, I can't imagine that this has any potential to be good. And additionally, I'm finding out the weight distribution is absolutely terrible. Alright, that first cut, not actually too bad. Definitely less power than the rigid, but not as much less as I was expecting it to. Let's do one more cut. So I am genuinely, pleasantly surprised by the performance of the Harbor Freight. The Harbor Freight was fully capable of doing the same exact cut that the rigid was in almost as much time. It did stall a few times, but we'll give it the benefit of the doubt considering that it costs about 4 times less than this rigid does. I will note that the biggest issue so far that I have noticed is that Harbor Freight is very unbalanced. Well, actually, it's fairly balanced. It just, when I was cutting, I didn't really feel like enough weight was on the front grip. It's very balanced for a one-hand hold. Now, the rigid, on the other hand, is more balanced for a two-hand hold. But for a one-hand hold, it's not very good. So, it's really hard for me to to admit, honestly, that this one does better in some cases than this way, way nicer one. But, you know, we're gonna have to do one more test because I've got another lined up. So we're just gonna see which one can handle a 2x4 a little bit better. Now we've got our harder material, and we're gonna see which circular saw is more capable of making a cut. Well, not bad, I must say. Now, let's try the Drill Master. Uh-oh, not good at all. No good. Alright, so my final thoughts on these two circular saws. Both of these circular saws actually did really, really well. Definitely nowhere near as good as a corded circular saw, but both of them performed very good, and I think they would both be pretty good for outdoor work or anywhere that or any job, that's maybe a little smaller and you're not going to want to get out a big corded saw. So, obviously, as you could see there in that last test, the Drill Master just couldn't do it. It doesn't have a deep enough cut. I don't know what the maximum cut on this is, but it's definitely smaller than what the maximum cut on the Rigid is, because the blade is an inch smaller around. So, I'm going to be completely honest, I wouldn't actually recommend either of these. I'm going to recommend that if you get a cordless circular saw, you should probably go with 60 volt flex volt from DeWalt, because according to other reviews I have seen, that seems to be the only cordless circular saw that is as good as a corded circular saw. But we'll find out in a later video, because eventually these will be compared, or well, actually the Rigid will be compared to a fairly decent corded circular saw. But for now, we are just comparing these two. So, final results. The Harbor Freight is phenomenal for the price. I think you can pick one of these up for like $40, and then the batteries work with all your other crappy tools. And I think now you can even get a lithium version of this. It's under the name Bauer. I was just pleasantly surprised. The build quality is not half bad. The foot is solid. It is not even that horrible. It has, some power. It is easier to adjust than the Rigid is. This is a really good dual. Yeah, this is a really good deal on a circular saw. The Rigid, I would not purchase this. I would not. For the amount of money that you're going to pay for this, it's not worth it, because you can get something exponentially better for not that much more. I mean, is it better than the Drill Master? Yeah, it's better than the Drill Master. Is it the best cordless circular saw that I have access to? Yes. But is it the best cordless circular saw? No, it's not. There are things it is incapable of doing. It just wasn't able to get those tasks done the way I really feel like it should have. So I would not recommend this tool to anyone. So comment, like, and subscribe, and wait till next week in our next episode of Tool Head to Head.